If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Greetings, my friends in podcast land, and thanks so much for tuning in to Drea's Point of View. I am your hostess, Drea, and each week I'll be bringing you topics that I feel passionate about in 10 minutes or less. And I will be doing that with absolutely no co-host at all. That way I can bring you an uninterrupted version of Drea's Point of View. That being said, let's jump right into this week's topic. How far will you go for love? I'm speaking of long-distance relationships. How far are you willing to travel for that special someone? Out of the zip code, out of the country, in another state. I've met guys who have a problem if they live an hour or so away from someone. And I'm like, how do you know how far it'll go with that person? Like, how do you know that's not the person you're meant to be with? I know one guy I was talking to said that he was only willing to date someone in his city. Like, that's it. So he was talking about me moving back. First off, I left home for a reason. I'm nowhere near home. Home is on the other side of the country. I have no desire to go back there for anyone. I didn't even know him that well. He was just like the early stages. So that was a red flag right there. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. But I will travel. I have traveled for someone that I'm dating. My most successful relationship was a long distance relationship. And it worked out for a while. You know, I never thought I would want to talk to somebody every day outside of my parents, but we did. We did the video chat thing. We saw each other every other week. We got pretty serious, and it didn't work out. And I will say it's my fault, not getting into too much detail about it, but I take the blame for why it didn't work out. But I'm open. I'm definitely open to long distance relationships. According to this survey that was done in 2018 by Ruby Peterson, it found that 60% of long distance relationships last, and 50% of those met online. I know I had a coworker, she met someone, I don't remember how far away he lived, but he actually wound up moving to be with her, which is a rarity. You always hear about the woman packing up and leaving. We're always the ones that seem to got to sacrifice with that. But kudos to her for meeting a guy who was willing to move with her. And they had kids and they're married. There was an article, January of 2020, that said long distance relationships statistics. It says that 125 miles seems to be the average distance for long distance love. And there was an article in April of 2020 that said 14 million people are in long distance relationships. So are you willing to travel for that special someone? Do they have to meet you halfway? Would you travel out of the country or out of your city? You know, you've got some people who are just stuck in their comfort zone. Unlike when we were all kids and all our friends lived around us, that's not the case now. I mean, unless your options are like that, you got it like that where people are lining up around the block to see you. I'm thinking you should be more open to that option because you never know. Never know what's in store. So I'm curious to hear from my listeners who has done a long distance relationship, who is not willing to do that under any circumstance. And yeah, just are you open to long distance love? Do you think it would last? Would you do it again if you have done it? Hopefully you enjoyed listening to this podcast as much as I enjoyed bringing it to you. You can find me on social media, Drea's Point of View, Instagram, www.dreaspointofview.com. On my website, you can comment, leave a review. On Twitter, I'm Andrea's Point. And you can listen to me on most major platforms, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Anchor, and more. I would love to hear from you, and I would love for you to subscribe as well. I try to bring bi-weekly content, and I'm considering making it tri-weekly content. Next season, we'll see. This has been Drea's Point of View.